அருணாதியர் வந்தனை செய்யும் மலையை அருணாச்சலமென்று அறைவார் சிலத்தாம். வருணாதியர் வந்தனை செய்யும் மலையை அருணாச்சலமென்று அறைவார் சிலத்தாம். இருள் நாசமுற இயலம் மலையை கருணாலய வேங்கடம் என்பம் யாம். இருள் நாசமுற இயலம் மலையை கருணாலய வேங்கடம் என்பம் யாம். வருணாதியர் வந்தனை செய்யும் மலையை அருணாச்சலமென்று அறைவார் சிலத்தாம். ரமணன் மகிழ்வாக ரமிப்பதனால் அமரர் பலரும் அடையும் அருணச்சிமயம் தனையாம். திருவேங்கடம் என்று அமலன் அமர்வாக அழைத்ததுவே. ரமணன் மகிழ்வாக ரமிப்பதனால் அமரர் பலரும் அடையும் அருணச்சிமயம் தனையாம். திருவேங்கடம் என்று அமலன் அமர்வாக அழைத்ததுவே. வருணாதியர் வந்தனை செய்யும் மலையை அருணாச்சலம் என்று அறைவார் சிலர்த்தாம்.
Letters from Sri Ramanashramam, dated 21st November 1945. The son is beholden to the father. The day before yesterday, being full moon, the usual Deepotsava, festival of lights, was celebrated on a grand scale. This morning Sri Arunachaleswara started for Giri Pradakshina, going round the hill, with the usual retinue and devotees and accompaniment of music. By the time the procession reached the ashramam gate, Sri Niranjanananda Swami, the Sarvadhikari, came out with ashramam devotees, offered coconuts and camphor to Sri Arunachaleswara, and paid homage when the procession was stopped and the priests performed arati to the god. Just then, Sri Bhagavan happened to be going towards the Goshala cow shed, and seeing the grandeur, he sat down on the pile near the tap by the side of the book depot. The arati plate offered to Arunachaleswara was brought to Bhagavan by ashramam devotees, and Sri Bhagavan took a little vibhuti, holy ash, and applied it to his forehead, saying in an undertone, "Appaku pillai adakkam." The son is beholden to the father. His voice seemed choked with emotion as he spoke. The expression on his face proved the ancient saying, "Bhakti purnataya jnanam." The culmination of devotion is knowledge. Sri Bhagavan is Lord Shiva's son. Sri Ganapati Muni's saying that he is Kanda incarnate was confirmed. It struck us that Bhagavan was teaching us that since all creatures are the children of Ishvara, even a jnani should be beholden to Ishvara. We can never tell how pregnant with meaning or the words of Mahatmas. You ask me to write somehow, but how can I convey the exquisite beauty of his utterances? How can I describe adequately? I wrote in a recent poem that every word that falls from his lips is scripture. Why talk of his words alone? If one has the ability to understand his very gaze and gait, his action and inaction, inhaling and exhaling, everything about him is full of meaning. Have I the capacity to understand and interpret all this? Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. Talk number 212. Maharshi observed, Pradakshina, the Hindu rite of going round the object of worship, is all is within me. The true significance of the act of going round Arunachala is said to be as effective as circuit round the world. That means that the whole world is condensed into this hill. The circuit round the temple of Arunachala is equally good, and self-circuit, that is turning round and round, is as good as the last. So all are contained in the self. Says the Ribhugita, I remain fixed, whereas innumerable universes becoming concepts within my mind rotate within me. This meditation is the highest circuit, Pradakshina.
பரசுகின்றிலேன் பரசிவ வெங்கடன் பாங்கறிந்தொழுயில்லே பரசுகின்றிலேன் பரசிவ வெங்கடன் பாங்கறிந்தொழுயில்லே சிரசுமேல் செழும் திருவடி சூட்டி எத்தியனை அருளோடு முரசனாடொரு முழங்கு சோனை பதி முன்னவன் முக நோக்கி முரசனாடொரு முழங்கு சோனை பதி முன்னவன் முக நோக்கி அரசனாய் வந்து ஆண்டு கொண்டருளிய அற்புதம் அறியேனே. சொப்பனம் மகள் சூதனை வேங்கடன் துறவிகள் இதயத்தே சொப்பனம் மகள் சூதனை வேங்கடன் துறவிகள் இதயத்தே எய்ப்பிடத்து உலப்பில்லதோர் வைப்பேன இருப்பவன் தனக்கு தான் எய்ப்பிடத்து உலப்பில்லதோர் வைப்பேன இருப்பவன் தனக்கு தான் ஒப்ப நன்றி மற்ற மற்றொருவரை இல்லவன் உயிர் தொகைக்கு ஒருங்கம்மை ஒப்பனன்றி மற்றொருவரை இல்லவன் உயிர் தொகைக்கு ஒருங்கம்மை அப்பனாண்டு தன்னடியரிற் கூட்டிய அதிசயங்கண்டாமே.
Letters from Sri Ramanashramam, dated 30th November 1947. Poor man's mite. I have already written to you that on the night of the festival of the Holy Beacon, that is the Deepam festival, when the beacon at the top of the hill was lighted, we took the permission of Bhagavan and went round the hill. Hitherto the usual practice had been to go round the hill before the festival, not after. But this time, however, we started at night after the evening meal. There were about 100 of us, with Bhagavan in our hearts and with the beacon light on the top of the hill before our eyes, and with the full moon brightly shining, we started out on foot. Devotees who had had the privilege of accompanying Bhagavan on his walks round the hill in his earlier days began to tell us about their experiences. Bhagavan used to sit here. Here we used to cook. This happened here. Bhagavan told us about this there. While they were relating such incidents, we did not feel the fatigue of walking, for we were absorbed in the tales. But for the fact that we wanted to get back for the Veda Parayana at 5 a.m., we might only have returned at daybreak. As it was, we returned at 3 a.m. I will now tell you some of the things the devotees told us that night. As we were approaching the Udamalai tank, a devotee said, when Bhagavan went round the hill, he used to sit here for some time, so that those who were lagging behind might catch up with the party. Let us also sit here and wait for a while. We accordingly all sat there for some time. How long ago was it that Bhagavan gave up going round the hill? I asked. Till 1926 Bhagavan used to do it. That was an exhilarating experience, said Kunjuswami, one of the old devotees. Why not tell us some of the incidents of those days? We said. Kunjuswami agreed and began to tell us as follows. One day we all felt like going round the hill with Bhagavan. When we told him, he readily consented and we started that afternoon immediately after food. It was usual for Bhagavan to walk slowly while going round the hill. So Venamma, hearing that he had gone and confident that she could catch up with the party in no time, started out with a big basket of provisions. We were passing Sonatirtham when Bhagavan noticed Venamma at a distance approaching, and he said, "There you see, Venamma is coming. Someone must have told her and sent her with a basket of food. However much I protest, people will not give up these things. There she is, with a heavy load on her head. All right, this is going to be a punishment for her." So saying, he began to walk fast. She continued to hurry, panting and fretting all the time, but did not stop walking. Bhagavan continued to walk in this way until we passed the Gautamashramam. When he looked back, he could see that she too was walking fast, and his heart melting at the sight, He led us to a mango grove that was nearby the road. Standing under the shade of one of the trees, Bhagavan said, "We will stop here. There is a well, and if not here, we may not get water anywhere else nearby." I was hoping that she would give us up, but she would not. She is tired and is panting for breath. What a shame. So saying, he sat down. Unable to discover our whereabouts and coming up to the trees, Venama began anxiously saying, "Where has Bhagavan gone? There is no sign of him anywhere." When Bhagavan heard this, he began laughing, whereupon she traced us to where we were and joined us. After eating what she had brought us, we began our walk again, Venama now with us. From that day, we named the tree Venama's mango tree. Bhagavan used to tell us that sometimes he started for Pradakshina at night and returned by daybreak. It was the usual thing to start so. Sometimes, however, we would start in the morning with cooking utensils to cook food at noon, either at Sonatirtham or at Gautamashram or at Pachayamman shrine, eat, rest, and return to the ashramam in the evening. Before the ashramam grew to its present size, we would go round leisurely, sometimes taking 2 days, or 3 days, or even a week, camping en route. On one occasion, we started to go round in the morning with the intention of returning the same evening. We stopped at the Gautamashram, cooked our food, ate it, and after taking some rest, packed all the milk, sugar, buttermilk, etc. that remained and started walking again. As we were approaching Adiyannamalai, Bhagavan began walking off on a side road and very fast. Thinking that he wished to avoid the crowds on the main road, we followed him. After going along a path for about half a furlong, we came to a tank. At the edge of the tank and under a tree sat an old man, his body covered by a blanket and holding a small pot in his hand. This old man, whenever he heard that Bhagavan was coming round the hill, would await Bhagavan's arrival on the road and bring him something to eat. Not seeing him on the road, and lest the poor man should be troubled at missing him, Bhagavan had made the detour. Bhagavan, on seeing him, called him by name and began talking with him very simply. The old peasant prostrated before Bhagavan, then stood with folded hands, saying nothing. "What is the matter?" said Bhagavan. "Why is it that I do not see you anywhere these days? Are crops and cattle all right? How are the children? And then, what is in that pot?" queried Bhagavan. Very hesitantly the old man said, "Nothing particular, Swami. I came to know that you were coming. I wanted to bring something as usual to offer you, but there was nothing in the house. When I asked my old woman, she said, 'There is ample food in the cook pot. You can take it to them.' Unable to decide what to do, I put some of the food into this small pot, but ashamed to face you with only this sort of food to offer you, I was sitting here, Swami." Bhagavan, seemingly very pleased, exclaimed, "Oh, cooked food, is it? That is excellent. Why be ashamed? It will be very good. Let me have it." As the old man was still hesitating, Bhagavan took the pot from him, sat down under a tree, and told his followers to unload all the things they had brought. We unloaded accordingly. Bhagavan took out from among the cooking things a big open-mouthed tin-lined vessel into which he put all the food, poured in a lot of water and mixed it well into a paste with his hand. Then from some leftovers amongst our things, he took out some lime and squeezed the juice into the mixture, poured in some buttermilk and made the whole thing into a liquid. Finally, he mixed some salt and dry ginger powder, then took out a tumblerful of the liquid, drank it and said, "Oh, this is delicious." Then looking at us all, he said, "All of you mix some sugar with that milk left over and drink it. Our luggage will be lighter. I have this food, so what need have I for the milk? This is first-rate food for me in this hot weather. It is also very nourishing and has many other good qualities too. But you would not like it, so drink the milk and please give my share of it and the sugar to this old man." We accordingly mixed the sugar with the milk, and after giving some to the old man, we drank the rest. Bhagavan was meanwhile talking sociably with the old farmer and taking 2 or 3 tumblerfuls of the liquid preparation, saying that it was like nectar. He then said to the old man, "My stomach is quite full. I feel that I shall not be able to take any food tonight. Take the rest of this liquid food home." So saying, he gave the remaining food to the old man, who accepted it as though it were nectar. Wiping the tears of joy that were welling up into his eyes, he took leave of us and went off to his cottage. "Until recently," I said, "that old man used to come to see Bhagavan every now and then. Vyasa wrote in glowing terms in the Bhagavatam about the beaten rice that Kuchela presented to Lord Krishna. Had he seen this Lord's kindly act, how much more glowingly would he have written?
மண்ணல்லை விண்ணல்லை மானுமல்லை மதியல்லை கதிரல்லை மாயமல்லை பெண்ணல்லை ஆணல்லை பேடும் மல்லை பேச்சல்லை மூச்சல்லை
Letters from Sri Ramanashramam, dated 26th June 1949. The importance of yatra and pradakshina, that is pilgrimage and circumambulation. Bhagavan has not been keeping good health for some time past. Troubled in my mind on that account and unable to know what to do, I decided to go round the hill not only on Tuesdays as usual, but also on Fridays and pray to Arunachaleswara for Bhagavan's health. With that decision, I went to Bhagavan on Thursday evening to tell him that I was going round the hill the next morning. Tomorrow, is it Tuesday? Asked Bhagavan. No, it's Friday, I said. As if he had understood my purpose, he said, yes, yes. One of the devotees who had recently come and had been staying for some time asked Bhagavan, several people here go round the hill frequently. What is its greatness? Bhagavan told him the following story. The greatness of this Giri Pradakshina has been described at length in Arunachala Puranam. Lord Nandikesa asked Sadasiva a similar question, and Sadasiva narrated as follows. To go round the hill is good. The word Pradakshina has a typical meaning. The letter Pra stands for removal of all kinds of sins. Da stands for fulfilling the desires. Kshi stands for freedom from future births. Na stands for giving deliverance through jnana. If by way of pradakshina you walk one step, it gives happiness in this world. 2 steps, it gives happiness in heaven. 3 steps, it gives bliss of Satyaloka which can be attained. One should go round either in mauna, silence, or dhyana, meditation, or japa, repetition of Lord's name, or sankirtana, bhajan, and thereby think of God all the time. One should walk slowly like a woman who is in the 9th month of pregnancy. It seems Amba, who was doing tapas here, went round the hill on the day of the Kritika star in the first quarter of the night. Immediately after the darshan of the holy beacon, she became finally absorbed in Lord Shiva. It is stated that on the 3rd day after the festival of the holy beacon, Shiva himself started for the Pradakshina with all his followers. Really, it is difficult to describe the pleasure and happiness one gets by this Pradakshina. The body gets tired, the sense organs lose their strength, and all the activities of the body become absorbed within. It is possible thus to forget oneself and get into a state of meditation. As one continues to walk, the body automatically gets harmonized as in the asana state. The body therefore becomes improved in health. Besides this, there are several varieties of medicinal herbs on this hill. The air that passes over those herbs is good for the lungs. It used to be very exciting during those days when we were going for Pradakshina. We started whenever we felt like it, especially if there was any festival day. We used to halt wherever we felt it was late or we were tired, cook for ourselves and eat. There was no anxiety whatsoever, as there was no stipulation that we should stop at any particular place. Before railway travel came in, pilgrimages were all made on foot. They never used to start with an idea of reaching a particular place at a particular time, or that they should stop for a particular period at any particular place. There is a proverb saying that people who go to Kashi, Banaras, and those who go to Kati cremation ground, are equal. Only those who have no hope of coming back would start for Kashi. Giri Pradakshina is also the same thing. The body becomes light and it walks of its own accord. There will not be the feeling that we are walking. The dhyana that you cannot get into while sitting, you get into automatically if you go for Pradakshina. The place and the atmosphere there are like that. However unable a person is to walk, if he goes round the hill, he will feel like going again and again. The more you go, the more the enthusiasm for it. It never decreases. Once a person is accustomed to the happiness of Pradakshina, he can never give it up. Look at Nagamma. She used to go round only once a week on every Tuesday. Now she is going around even on Fridays. She goes around all alone in the dark without any fear whatsoever. A sadhu by name Kannappa, it seems, goes round every day, said the devotee. Yes, he is a very old man. He cannot see. So he starts every day at 8 o'clock in the night, as there will not be much cart traffic. He has a conch shell which he blows as he goes. Hearing that sound, all people make way for him. Is it a fact that when Bhagavan was going round the hill with the devotees during the nights, he used to see groups of siddhas? Asked another. Yes, all that is written in the biography. So saying, Bhagavan resumed silence. Letters from Sri Ramanashramam, dated 10th April 1947. Absolute surrender. This morning, an Andhra youth handed over a letter to Bhagavan in which it was written, Swamiji, they say that one can obtain everything if one takes refuge in God, wholly and solely, and without thought of any other. Does it mean sitting still at one place and contemplating God entirely at all times, discarding all thoughts, including even about food, which is essential for the sustenance of the body? Does it mean that when one gets ill, one should not think of medicine and treatment, but entrust one's health or sickness exclusively to providence? From the definition of Sthita Prajna given in Gita, Vihaya Kaman Yas Sarvan Pumanscharati Nispruhaha Nirmamo Nirahankaraha Sashanti Madhigacchati. The man who sheds all longing and moves without concern, free from the sense of I and mine, he attains peace. It means the discarding of all desires. Therefore, should we devote ourselves exclusively to the contemplation of God and accept food, water, etc. only if they are available by God's grace without asking for them? Or does it mean that we should make a little effort? Bhagavan, please explain the secret of this Saranagati. Bhagavan saw that letter leisurely and told the people near him, Look, Ananya Saranagati means to be without any attachment of thoughts, no doubt. But does it mean to discard thoughts even of food and water, etc.? He asks, should I eat only if I get anything by God's direction and without my asking for it? Or should I make a little effort? Alright, let us take it that what we have to eat comes of its own accord. But even then, who is to eat? Suppose somebody puts it in our mouth, should we not swallow it at least? Is that not an effort? He asks, if I become sick, should I take medicine or should I keep quiet leaving my health and sickness in the hands of God? Kshudvade Aharam, it is said. There are two meanings to this. One is, since kshut, that is hunger, is also like sickness, so for the sickness called hunger, the medicine called food must be given. The other is, like medicine for vyadhi, sickness, food for kshut, hunger, must be given. In the book Sadhana Panchakam written by Shankara, it is stated, Kshudvyadishcha chikitsyatam pratidinam bhikshaushadham bhujyatam. It means, for treatment of the disease called hunger, eat food received as alms. But then, one must at least go out for bhiksha. If all people close their eyes and sit still, saying, if the food comes, we eat, how is the world to get on? Hence, one must take things as they come, in accordance with one's own traditions, and must be free from the feeling that one is doing them oneself. The feeling that I am doing it is bondage. It is therefore necessary to consider and find out the method whereby such a feeling can be overcome, instead of doubting as to whether medicine should be administered if one is sick, or whether food should be taken if one is hungry. Such doubts will continue to come and will never end. Even such doubts as, may I groan if there is pain? May I inhale air after exhaling? Also occur. Call it Ishvara or call it Karma. Some Karta will carry on everything in this world according to the development of the mind of each individual. If the responsibility is thrown at him, the Karta, things will go on of their own accord. We walk on this ground. While doing so, do we consider at every step whether we should raise one leg after the other or stop at some stage? Isn't the walking done automatically? The same is the case with inhaling and exhaling. No special effort is made. The same is the case with this life also. Can we give up anything if we want to, or do anything as we please? Quite a number of things are done automatically without our being conscious of it. Complete surrender to God means giving up all thoughts and concentrating the mind on Him. If we can concentrate on Him, other thoughts disappear. If mano, vak, kaya, karmas, that is the actions of the mind, speech and body, are merged with God, all the burdens of our life will be on Him. Lord Krishna told Arjuna in the Gita, Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. To those men who worship me alone, thinking of no other, to those ever harmonious, I bring full security and attend to their needs. Arjuna had to do the fighting. So Krishna said, place all the burden on me, do your duty. You are merely an instrument. I will see to everything. Nothing will bother you. But then, before one surrenders to God, one should know who it is that surrenders. Unless all thoughts are given up, there can't be surrender. When there are no thoughts at all, what remains is only the self. So surrender will only be to one's self. If surrender is in terms of bhakti, the burden should be thrown on God. And if it is in terms of karma, karma should be performed until one knows one's own self. The result is the same in either case. Surrender means to enquire and to know about one's own self, and then remain in the self. What is there apart from the self? That young man said, What is the path by which it can be known? Bhagavan replied, in the Gita several paths are indicated. You are asked to do dhyana. If you are not able to do it, then bhakti or yoga or nishkama karma. Many more ways have been indicated, and one of the paths must be followed. One's own self is always there. Things happen automatically in accordance with the samskaras, the fruits of the actions of previous births. The feeling that the doer is I is itself bondage. If the feeling is got rid of by vichara, these questions do not arise. Saranagati is not the mere act of sitting with closed eyes. If all sit like that, how are they to get on in this world? While Bhagavan was speaking, the bell of the dining hall rang. There goes the bell. Should we not go? So saying with a smile, Bhagavan got up.
புத்தமுதச்சுவை பொங்கும் திருவடி வித்தகமெய்யரால் அன்னே என்னும் புத்தமுதச்சுவை பொங்கும் திருவடி வித்தகமெய்யரால் அன்னே என்னும் வித்தகமெய்யுடை வேங்கடநாதர் என் சித்தமுறைவரால் அன்னே வித்தகமெய்யுடை வேங்கடநாதர் என் சித்தமுறைவரால் அன்னே சித்தமுறைவரால் அன்னே புத்தமுதச்சுவை பொங்கும் திருவடி வித்தகமெய்யரால் அன்னே பாண்டிச்சுழியர் பசுபதி வேங்கடர் காண்டியன் காதலர் அன்னே என்னும் பாண்டிச்சுழியர் பசுபதி வேங்கடர் காண்டியன் காதலர் அன்னே என்னும் காண்டிய காதலர் கண்டுயில் கால் என்னை தேண்டி திளைப்பரால் அன்னே என்னும் காண்டிய காதலர் கண்டுயில் கால் என்னை தேண்டி திளைப்பரால் அன்னே என்னும் புத்தமுதச்சுவை பொங்கும் திருவடி வித்தகமெய்யரால் அன்னே என்னும் வித்தகமெய்யுடை வேங்கடநாதர் என் சித்தமுறைவரால் அன்னே என்னும் சித்தமுறைவரால் அன்னே என்னும் பெறார்